welcome. I have not done an interview in close to forever because I don't do them anymore, but I was finally able to after he did about 9 of them without me, even though we've talked to each other for 10 years. Finally doing one with J. Anthony Frank or Frankie. How do you pronounce your last name?
It is Frankie, like
Frankie.
Franca in German, but Frankie here and or there in the States, and then here in Australia. There's a few of us.
You may
So
remember him from getting beat up by Al Bundy, from Earth Angel with Andy Dick, Casino Job. Maybe you remember that. Or of course the California Dreams TV show on NBC Saturday mornings.
as Jake Summers, yes.
Yes, was that you singing? I know what you had to have sung at least one of the songs, but was that you doing this? Were you guys doing
Um,
the actual music for it?
the the amazing and wonderful Barry Coughing supplied my voice for most of the times that you see Jake singing. Um, Most of the people on the show did their own singing. I did not have the type of voice that they thought Jake should have, but they said I was a little too folky or something, or I'm not quite certain. But if you want to hear me sing on the show, you go to the episode. I think it's called Vote of Confidence. I think in season 2, and
Yeah,
I
that was
sing
the
a
one
song
I
called
could tell was you.
yeah, I sing a song called Leather and Loose, and I play the guitar live and sing live. Um, and I think Brentley and myself and Jenny were the only people to have actually done that on the show. But that is me live, and then there's a few other times, little things here and there, but most of the stuff in studio was Barry Coughing, who was fantastic, and then also honestly, that freed me up too because sometimes the other people had to go into the studio on Saturdays right after working all week and spend the day in the studio recording music, and I didn't have to do that, which part of me is like, damn, that would have been awesome, and part of me is like, I didn't have to do that. So it's kind of a win-win, lose-lose. Like it is what it is. So I think I was a much better singer then than I am now, but that's what age does to you. So
I guess I skipped ahead. I should ask you what I ask everyone. How'd you get started acting?
uh there was a point in my life where it was like the only thing I could imagine myself doing. So I was auditioning. I was a karaoke. That's how karaoke. It's like how it's pronounced. Um, I mean, it's empty orchestra in Japanese. DJ at the first karaoke bar in Los Angeles. Um, and had been doing that for a few years. And I was young. Like I got that job and I was like, I probably shouldn't. I don't think I was allowed, but I was like 15, I think, when I got that job. Um, and I had been there for a few years, but when I was like 15 or just turned 16, um, an agent and a manager who were dining there together saw me and were like, "We're signing you." That's just sorry because I got up and sang, and they were like, "Oh my God, holy crap!" And then obviously I was a different kind of beast back then. I was very pretty at the time at that age, and
So was I.
you're right. And they they basically just signed me, and then I auditioned for years for stuff, and I did bits and parts, and I came close on a lot of things. But I was also auditioning for leading, like most of the stuff I was auditioning for was like leading roles, like all the time, so that's really difficult because those are really hard to get. Um, and I was green. The term is green. Like I hadn't really worked a lot. I was young. I didn't really know my way around, and I wasn't auditioning. Anyway, so finally, I auditioned for a couple of things on this in that time, and I got a call on the same day that I got a call for a different project, and I got two projects in the same day, and I booked both of them, and then I was told that according to uh, NBC, I had to pick one because they were not going to allow me to film the other thing while filming the California Dreams. So I had to think like, okay, this is a one-time thing on the one hand, and then this is a series on the other hand. Series could go for who knows how long. It could end. It could end after a couple episodes. It could. Who knows? But it was a gamble we took. So I took the California Dreams and ended up being Jake Summers. So and
How'd the
and then yeah, I guess you asked how. Also, it was like a five or six auditions. I went in front of, exponentially terrifying groups of people each time, till finally I was standing, and it was three of us in one room, going in one by one into the room full of the executives and producers at NBC. And that was really quite terrifying. But that was one of the, it's they say like when you know, you know. And it was one of the few auditions I'd come out of where I had been like, oh, I got it. Like I was just like, this is mine. Like I'm not even questioning this. And then when they called me, I wasn't. I was shocked with everything that I had ever gotten. This one, I was just, for some reason, I just knew. Like I just knew it was mine. I don't know. So, but yeah.
Was there any heat like because the show had already had a first season. Brantley
Yep.
Gore was the lead singer, but he was a keyboard player. Girl keyboard players don't get girls unless you're Jerry Lee Lewis and you're getting your 14
Well,
year
he
old.
was the guitar player in the first season, and
Was
then
he a
and then they
guitar player
moved.
in the first season? Then he was the
Yeah,
keyboard. Okay.
and they moved him to keyboard, um, off and on, back and forth from guitar to keyboard when I came on, which he admits to this day, like now he publicly says, I hated that, and I love Jay, but I hated that they put Jay on the guitar and put me on the keyboards, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him. That was, guitars are cooler than keyboards, but
They
at the same
are.
time, he Brentley's an amazing musician. He plays guitar. He does play piano. I noodle on the guitar, and I can eke out a melody on the piano, sort of. It's, yeah. Anyway,
Because when you came on the show, that's when the show changed. Like it went from I don't ever want to say it wasn't a family like show, but you had the mom, the dad, the sister, all that, that dynamic at the home. When you came on, it became almost just kind of like a wacky high school sitcom. Was there ever any like any of the other cast members kind of like, ah, crap, this new guy's coming, everything's changing now, or was it all just, hey, let's have a good time and make money?
I think there was. I mean, I think there was definitely, when I first got there, I think there was definitely a, like, who the f is this guy? And why is he here? There's a story I've been telling lately that that I remembered only within the last year or two. When I got the part, I was living on like half a bag of ramen a day. I was living in a place called the Tortilla Flats, which, that's what it was known locally as. But it was just this really decrepit, little old early 1900s, apartment, not apartment, but bungalow complex, on the border of Santa Monica and West Los Angeles. And uh, we went in for a meeting to introduce me to the cast. And so Peter Engel was like, cast, hello, this is the new cast member, Anthony Franke. And I had walked in, and I probably reeked of cigarette smoke. I had a flannel, and I think some like really loose khakis, some on, and some what do you call them? The sandals.
Doc Martens,
No, no, in fact, I'm
flip
wearing
flops,
Birkenstocks.
Birkenstocks.
I had Birkenstocks. I had a full beard, kind of like this, except no gray. And my hair was just kind of, I look like I look like some kid they just grabbed off the street. So, I walked in, and they all looked at me like, what? And Michael Cade even says, he's like, yeah, I was pretty confused when they brought you in, but then, Monday when you came in clean shaven and stuff, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Um, so, um, yeah. I'm sorry, what was the question again?
If there was any
Remember?
animosity when you came in.
Yeah. So I think there was, because the dynamic was changing. But at the same time, like, no matter what, like we became this unit, this familial unit, and we became like a family. It was very dysfunctional, but I mean, to say that I love these people would be an understatement. So yeah, there was a little bit. I don't think animosity is the word. I think it was more of just, like, what the hell's going on here? Why are things changing? And why does it have to do with this guy? And why does it have to be that way? But like, again, like I said, I think we've all overcome different thoughts on the subject and gotten over it. And yeah.
I noticed when the show now here's the question. It's out of order, but I'm going to ask. Shout Factory. I love Shout Factory. Shout Factory sends me everything. Shout Factory, Scream Factory, great people. Hi to Tom, Lauren,
Mhm.
Shannon. Put out season 1. Put out season 2, 3, and 4 on their direct to press, whatever. You basically buy it for the website to pay more. Never put
Right.
out season 5, which is the last season.
Right.
Do you have any idea why they would go to the trouble of doing 1, 2, 3, 4, but not the final season with? Because your show actually, unlike most shows in that time frame, had an ending to it. You had
Right.
a final episode that no one has got
Right.
to see because you don't stream either.
From my understanding, they weren't making enough money on the previous seasons, but that I think was a decision on their end because my wife, who's Australian, was like, no, you can't. And she's been up on this stuff. My wife is she's kind of like a you. She's a collector. She's into like the thing she's into. She finds the info she wants. And she's like, basically, they made it so you can only buy it like in the States.
Yeah.
It was almost impossible to get. All of our fans all over the world were like, why the hell can't we get this? Why can't we order it and have it shipped to us? And so somebody there made that decision. No offense to, I don't know, to your friends or whatever. Somebody made a decision to not make it available to people. And therefore they didn't make enough money and therefore said, screw it, we're not doing season 5.
Which I've never understood why
I think
you wouldn't do the final
I think
season.
it's a fucking shame. I'm sorry. No, it's a shame. It sucks. It sucks for the fans that were able to get it. I see them on eBay selling for hundreds of dollars for the people that did get them and who decided they did want to sell them. They're selling for a lot of freaking money. So
Yeah,
put
they're
out
long out
season
of print.
5. It'd be a great thing. Awesome. It would be up. And you know what? If you want to do a repress or whatever it is of the DVDs or whatever of all the seasons and then make it available worldwide, you might make a little more money.
Because I remember you guys were
Just a
very, very popular in Germany. Didn't you actually have an album that was released over like a soundtrack?
We were very popular in Europe, period. That's in fact, this reunion, I'm sure you'll get to this question, but we just did a reunion. And if we are considering doing another one, our first thoughts are UK. Because our biggest fan base is pretty much Europe and UK. And Germany, yeah, massive in Germany, France, Spain. We've a really, most of my fan mail came from Europe. And yeah, so, but yeah, yeah, repress, reprint, do the whole thing, make it available to everybody, and you know, maybe we can even get it streaming as well. Anyway, yeah, we'll get to
Streaming
that.
would be my next logical question because Saved by the Bell, you can stream all these shows.
Mhm.
Well, not all these shows because a lot of the syndicated stuff. And I know a lot of shows, which is weird. Like I've had to buy a show called Werewolf. I had to buy it in Germany because there was like one song they couldn't get the rights to, so it like kiboshed the entire series on DVD. Why don't you guys stream on Peacock like all the other NBC shows do?
Yeah, not only Peacock, but also I think Amazon started a TNBC channel and have all those shows except for ours. Like somebody freaking doesn't like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But what the closest thing that we can come up with, and this has been sort of verified by a few people is, well, first of all, they don't have to pay the actors for the streaming, which is fine. Just, we just want people to see the show and have fun and enjoy it like we enjoyed making it. That's it. But before the strike, I'm not sure what all the benefits of the deal that was just made are concerning streaming or whatever. But before the strike, you didn't really have to pay actors for things that were streamed, I guess. But musicians had to be paid. And our song having all original music, people needed to be paid. So they've made it basically people don't want it. So even if they don't have to pay us, they just don't want to pay the musicians, all the different musicians that were involved, and they don't want to pay the music group that did our music or something. That's what we've been sort of told. Truth, not truth, I don't know. But for some reason, people will not play our show. They won't stream it. They won't. And we get fans constantly saying, "Get it streaming." We're like, we can't, we have no control over this. We have none, zero, absolutely none. I wish we did, because if we did, I'd figure out a way to stream it myself.
Because I mean, like I said, your show, for those that don't know, had an ending. You went on to become a singer, and everybody else basically just went to college. I mean, they just decided they
Right,
wanted
right.
college.
Jake,
But it was
Jake
it was
went on
closure.
to, Jake got signed a contract. Jake signed a contract and went on to become a massive, huge music star, a musician, rock musician. And everybody else said, no, we don't want to do this. We want to actually go get educations, and which is probably the way that, they probably should have had everybody do that, including Jake. Jake say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna sign this, but I'm gonna go to college as well, or something. I don't know, but
That would have been so unbelievable, though. Like, yeah, I'll turn on this
right, like
contract to go
right.
study. Yeah, sure.
Because honestly, for me, like I would have just said, no, I'll take the contract. But I don't know. Like when I say should have, I just mean like I'm just thinking some kind of ethical thing. But that's just me being a 51-year-old guy going, get off my lawn at this point. So
You could have played it off better, and then you could have done the California Dreams, the college years. Like, and I still say that was a big mistake of Saved by the Bell, was going into prime time with the college show. Had they stayed in college on Saturday mornings, we probably would have still been watching to this day.
right. Again, not up to us. Not up to us. Basically, I think what happened was also the network with our show. Well, first of all, the executive producer had like publicly called our show his redheaded stepchild, I think, at one point. And then also with our show, which I'm not saying that with any malice or anything. I think it's kind of funny and cute, um, but also with the network, I think 78 episodes or 83 episodes or whatever it is like the cutoff number. Once you have those, then you can go into and you can make syndication deals. So as soon as we hit that number, they were like, all right, we're gonna get to that number, have a finale, and then we have syndication deals. So they were pretty much done with us at that point.
And you were syndicated
So
everywhere.
no,
Like where I live here, there were about 5 or 6 channels back in the day that showed you. They never showed the final season. They all showed seasons 1 through 4.
yeah, I don't know, man. And they showed us all over the world too. That's another thing. We were supposed to get international money. We got one like payment from we actually went to the union and got like one payment, and then they just stopped. And we never really saw international money. And we were told that, oh no, well, they're just showing you on military channels, American military channels, which don't have to be paid for. I'm like, it's impossible because all my fan mail comes in different languages from girls who are, speaking speaking French or Spanish, or these are not the children of U.S. American service people. Anyway, there's just been a lot of weird stuff with how we were treated by a lot of agencies and entities. Anyway,
Do you have a favorite episode?
I would say my favorite episode is probably, I'm sure you could even probably guess this, but it's the one where the late great Eddie Mecca, the big ragu from Laverne and Shirley, plays my Uncle Frank,
You
who
probably got
sadly
to smoke
passed.
for real on that episode, didn't you?
I did smoke for real on that episode, and I was a smoker up until a few years ago.
I could tell you were
In
inhaling
2000.
on the show, so it's like he's not that. He's like, this is not Matthew McConaughey. This guy's actually smoking this fucking cigarette, so which is cool because I was a smoker back
Oh no,
then.
I had been smoking for uh shit, man. I had already been smoking for 5, 6, 7, 8 years by that
Yeah,
point. I'd started pretty young.
same here.
And it was fun. The prop guys actually just came up and said, what's your brand? I said Camel Lights. And they were like, cool. And they brought like I think it was like 5 or 6 cartons of Camel Lights, and they were like, these are your, help yourself. And then when the episode was done, they were like, take them. And so I went home that with an armload of my brand of cigarettes. So yeah.
That was a good episode. I remember my friend and I, because I probably was 13, I think, when I started smoking quite a while back. But yeah, I was like, I think he's actually inhaling those cigarettes, as we're watching
Oh,
the
I
show
was.
drinking. So it was that was actually did you guys all get along? You guys all got along when the show ended. Like I remember seeing William James Jones. He popped up in a couple of Corey Feldman movies that he probably like to forget about. And then he was on another show called USA High. Kelly Packard, I know, was on Baywatch.
Mhm.
And I never saw any of you guys. I saw Diana, is it Uribe, however you pronounce it? She was,
Uribe,
she
Uribe,
was your, what is it?
Uribe, Diana
Uribe.
Uribe.
She was on an episode of Shasta McNasty. Um,
Mhm.
I never saw anybody else ever again. Did a lot of you guys just kind of quit acting, actually go to pursue other things? Or I
I
guess by
think a lot of
you
people
guys, I
did.
mean you primarily.
I did other people did pursue other things. Obviously, I think people know that William James Jones is actually a doctor of psychiatry.
I did
He
not
owns
know.
he owns a clinic. He owns his own clinic now. He's doing very well and still a lovely guy. Still funny as hell. Like, do that dude's lips move, I laugh. Anyway, um, and then uh, but I'll speak. I know Kelly like pretty much went on to have a family. Did well doing some anyway. But for me. I suffer from depression, anxiety, my whole life. I always have. Um, didn't really realize that, but I was in a very self-destructive downward spiral by the end of California Dreams, which is hanging on by a thread mentally. And I basically made a conscious decision to get out of the business because I was partying to excess. And to just knocking myself out every night, basically, day and night. And yeah, so I had to walk away, and it was either like I had to make a mental decision: do I want to live, or do I want to become part of the 27 Club or whatever, even whatever it was. And it was I kind of was like, I kind of like life. I suffer through these things, but I still like life, and I like people, and I like myself, and I kind of want to see where I go from here. But right now I know it's not going to be in the business, because if I stay in this business at this point, I'm in deep shit. So I was actually auditioning for other things and in talks to do other projects. I was actually in talks to do other things as well. Um, which I won't say what, but there were some things that I was in, yeah, had some stuff like, yeah, anyway. And I just kind of said, no, I gotta go. And that was it. So yeah, didn't look back. In hindsight, I think I wish once I had gotten my head screwed on a little bit better, a few years later, kind of wish I had decided to try to get back into it. But I didn't. So it, if started to think about it recently, and then COVID hit, and then the strike hit. So pretty much the moment I started to think about it and like, oh, maybe I do want to get back into this stuff. All these like roadblocks just went, nope, not for you today. So that's fine. It is what it is. So I just have my regular job, my tech job. Have these things here that I just noodle around with, and yeah, life is good.
You were to if people don't know, I'm a video game junkie. People know that. You were one of the people involved with the Deus Ex video game, if I'm correct.
I was involved in many ways. And Deus Ex was like one of the first video games to win a BAFTA, which is the British Arts and Television Film and whatever awards. It's pretty big deal. I was the quality assurance lead at the Iron Storm office in Dallas for Deus Ex, and then I was also the main character JC Denton, and the JC Denton's twin brother Paul, and then quite a few other characters in the game. And then I had no idea that the game would become such a cult classic right now. It is. I think I have as many Deus Ex fans engage me to this day as I do California Dreams fans. And it's just it's awesome. It's awesome. And if you haven't played it, it's old, it's dated, the engine's but it's one of the best gaming experiences you'll ever have. Just
It was
go
the
play it.
Unreal Engine, wasn't it?
And you know what? I don't even remember. I don't even remember at this point. You know what? Let me look it up right now. OG X original.
Well, you're looking that up. How'd you get involved in the video game world?
Yeah, it was the original Unreal Engine. Wow. And yep, yeah, that was IDOS Interactive on Ion Storm. Anyway, how did I get involved in video gaming? Basically after I had um left the acting business. California Dreams did not make me wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. It made life easier for a while. I was able to, after the show, live on my savings for quite a few years without having to really do anything. But at the same time, I was like, I can live off these savings for a while, but I need to do something. So I started trying to find different jobs to do here and there, and I got flitted in and out of this and out of that. And then I had a roommate at one point who came home and he said, "Dude, I'm working at Activision." And I went, "Oh, what?" Because as a kid, I grew up with Pong and then the Atari 2600. And on the Atari 2600, some of the best games on the Atari 2600 were put out by Activision.
Pitfall.
And then Pitfall was that's a massive one. And Pitfall at the time was the best game ever.
I
And
never
then there
beat
were
it.
other Right. And there were games in between there as well, in between Pitfall and that were Activision. So you knew who Activision was. So I said, you're working what? Doing what? And he said, "I'm playing video games for a living." And I was like, "What the are you talking about?" And then next thing I knew, I was interviewing and I got the job and I started working for Activision. And then I progressively moved up in positions and was pretty good at what I was doing. And then became I found it easy to get jobs pretty much anywhere doing what I did because back then nobody went to school for video games. They didn't have video game design or programming classes. It just didn't exist. Everybody I know back then got into games by accident, or it was a passion of theirs because they were programmers and they were like, "I don't want to program databases. I want to program video games." Um, and with especially in quality assurance, it was like I just love playing video games, and oh, I get to pick these games apart and tell people, how their crap's broken. Okay, I can do that. Um, so yeah, so that's pretty much how I got into it. And then yeah, ended up at Ion Storm at that point, all the way up until working at different places after that. And but yeah,
You worked for
that's how I
EA
got it.
too, didn't you?
Worked for EA, worked for Ion Storm, worked for Activision. Think I think that's all of them. Yeah. So
I
yeah,
want to
some of
know
the big
why
ones.
Herb Dean is the only referee in UFC, the new UFC game. Because I think that's bullshit. Because I think that's why I lose a lot because of his bad calls, like in real life. But so if you know anybody at EA, find out for me why Herb Dean is the only referee in the new UFC game.
I know some people at EA. I don't know if I know anybody in the sports division,
Very
but
upset with this.
I'll put some feelers out for you.
Are you still involved in the game world?
No, no. I started working for Black Magic Design, which is an Australian company, but we have offices worldwide. And we basically manufacture and design and manufacture. Sorry, I got that. Audiovisual equipment for studio, film, television production. Also for if you're a home streamer, we also make budget products for people who want to do stuff from their home as well. So we've got a massive catalog of awesome equipment. Um, I'm not even trying to plug the company I'm working for here, but yeah, I mean we've got really awesome stuff if you're looking to do some streaming or whatever. So
Now, your company, like you've mentioned a few times, Australia. You live in Australia. Your wife's Australian. You've said.
yeah.
How did you end up meeting and meeting an Australian lass, so to speak, and then moving to Australia? How did that happen?
Okay, so I had moved to Ventura, California, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours north of Los Angeles. And uh, I got a message on MySpace. This was during the MySpace days before Facebook, from a young Australian lass who was studying. She was getting her degree in film and television production in Australia. And well, yes, because she's Australian. And she basically she had seen some episodes of my show and enjoyed it. And and just said, I've seen this guy on MySpace. Let me just reach out and see if I can interview him on what it's like to put something together, put a show together. So she contacted me, and I said, sure, I'll do the interview with you. And it was just, I think it was just a text interview. So I just answered things by text and sent it back for her paper for class or whatever it was. And then we just talked here and there. And then at one point I was like, you're kind of cute. And she's like, so are you? And we ended up talking for years, actually just as friends for quite a while. And then at one point she and a friend came out to visit. And when she came out for a month, and when she left, she basically just said, I don't know. I think I was like, what do you want to do here? Do you want me to move on? Because you live in Australia. I live in the States. And she's like, no, I don't want you to move on. I was like, oh, okay. So then we made plans for me to, well, we had to decide where we're going to, where we're going to go moving forward. So it's basically just, yeah, I'll go to Australia. So didgeridoo, kangaroos, wombats, and g'day, mate. So here I am. Yeah.
Do you like it there?
I love it. Yeah. I miss, there's things I miss from the States. Food being one of the main things. There's good food here. It's just different. They make pizza differently. They do their burgers differently. Like it's just different. It's not bad. It's just, but like when I go home, I'm like, I want things. I want things the way I want them. But yes, no, I love it here. The medical care system, socialized medicine is freaking awesome. Yes, we pay for it. Yes, we pay for it with our taxes. Our taxes are really not much different than they are in the States. It's pretty much the same damn amount. And I do get to pick my doctors. I do get surgery when I need it. I have had surgery when I've needed it. All the bullshit talking points you hear from certain politicians and certain propagandists and stuff, it's all bullshit. Medical system here is top notch. Oh, and if you don't like the socialized system, we do have a privatized system as well, which I'm part of both. I use both. We have a privatized system. The only difference is the privatized system, insurance isn't allowed to deny you care that your doctor says you need. Period. So they got that going for them too.
You just have to deal with
What's
giant.
that?
You have to deal with giant spiders, though. So and I'm arachnophobic. So
my wife was laughing about that. Yes, we do have giant spiders here. We call them roommates. But my wife was laughing about that. She's like, I don't get Americans. She's like, they're all afraid of all the stuff we have in Australia, but you guys have like lions and bears and coyotes and wolves and like what the? She's like, why are people so afraid of animals in Australia? And yes, there's some dangerous crap here. There really is. But there's some dangerous crap in the States too. But one of the things I told her is I said, look, America's big. There's a lot of places, and so is Australia, but there's a lot of places in America where people don't live. And that's where the bears and the mountain lions and the wolves usually are. Now, there's a lot of places in Australia, mainly all of it, where people don't live. But that's just because it's hot and it's a big desert in the middle. So, but yes, we have a lot of crazy stuff here, but yeah, love Australia.
what's the political climate like there? You guys in Australia pretty much stay away from all the other bullshit, it seems like.
When I moved here, I looked at, I would watch their parliament in action, would watch their politicians speak, their right wing and their left wing, and their no wing. And I would say, well, I said at the very least, it looks as though at least your politicians that I disagree with, at least they seem to give a shit about you or about the people in Australia and the country. That's changing. And I said this, I said, I was watching certain things happen here. And I said, American style politics is coming to Australia, mark my words. And people are like, oh, no, you don't. We're getting there. We are now starting to get the same type of bullshit that has been happening in America and the divisions. And a lot of that has to do with Rupert Murdoch he's been allowed to open up a news channel here, and it's basically thinly veiled, subtle propaganda with racial undertones and anti-immigrant story. It's bad, and people are starting to get into it, and we're starting to actually get Trumpers here. I'm sorry, but it's, you know, before it was just a, you know, like, oh, we disagree, let's have a beer. And now we're actually starting to get people like, you know, yelling and screaming at each other, and it's like, it's just not like, I I feel sad watching it actually happen in real time. Like I watched it happen in real time in the States. And then I moved here and saw it wasn't that way at all. And then now I'm watching it happen in real time. And it's directly because of one, the States and the political climate there, and Australia being one of the strongest, I'm sorry, one of the most committed allies the US has is Australia. And that being so, obviously we share a lot of things, and things are coming over here that I wish wouldn't. And a lot of that is the political discourse that we see in the States today.
I think you and I have known each other for quite some time, and it's so, you know, and people should realize we get along very well. And you and I have, not to get into it, we have very different political, I think, views and values, but we get along fine because people can still be people. A lot of people just don't realize that.
Right. I, I think when I don't get along with somebody, it's usually because they won't take no for, like, somebody will want to argue with me about something, and I'll be like, I don't want to argue with you. I don't. I know what your position is. You know what mine is. We know that we're not going to change each other's mind. So why do you have to keep coming on every time I post something to argue the same point and have the same argument with me every single time? How about you just post on your shit, I just post on mine, and I don't say a thing on your page, you don't say a thing on mine, and we just agree to disagree. And I've had to have this conversation, and there's people who are like, no, I need to get on your page and tell you off every single time you post something I disagree with. And I'm like, I'm not posting things to change your mind. I'm not posting things to change someone's mind. I'm posting things to show somebody who lives in that household that, hey, there's other people. If you don't agree with everybody in your household, there's other people like you. Don't worry about it. That's all. That's all. It's not a, yeah. Anyway.
I think the only thing you and I don't disagree, or the only thing you and I do publicly, at least publicly on the internet, disagree on, is that Tito Ortiz is one of the greatest UFC MMA fighters all time. He beat the living shit out of Kim Shamrock. He has recently got another knockout win over Chuck Liddell, which I don't know how that got licensed. But I think other than that, I think the only thing that we've actually disagreed on heavily is my love for Tito Ortiz and your disdain for Tito Ortiz.
Yeah, look, Tito Ortiz was a great fighter. Still is. Still, like, he is a great fighter.
He just went crazy.
We don't disagree on that. Like, Tito Ortiz, he was a pioneer in the sport. He was he was phenomenal. He was a beast. And watching him was always a treat. I don't know. I just saw, like, I don't know. I like the fighters that kind of kept it low key and were like just cool with their opponents. And you know, when I saw the shit talk, and I was like, you know, it used to be that when the UFC first started, all these fighters, they came together and they respected each other, and they didn't talk shit, and they said hello before, they said hello after. And then all of a sudden we had these guys that were like, you know, hey, fuck you now, and it bothered me. So it wasn't, I don't think we disagreed on whether he was great or not. We disagreed on the show that was being put on. And maybe that's why I've never been a fan of wrestling either.
Well, I think Tito is a wrestling fan, and I think he figured,
I think he is too.
I'm gonna sell the fight by trash talking like they do here, and I'm gonna try to make myself more money. Then Tito, in all honesty,
I get that,
he's a little nuts.
Ahead,
I mean, I've been keeping up on him. I mean, I still keep up on him. Star of Crow 4, might I add, and he's a little different. He opened the cantina. He was like on the board.
I saw that. Yeah,
he's a little strange. He's he when the pandemic hit, he really I think COVID fried his brain, but either that or a lot of shots to the head.
But he opened that in Florida, right?
Or in maybe in California. I don't know. It's called Tito's Cantina, I do believe. If you go on Facebook and look up Tito Ortiz, there's pictures of it. Tito, I kind of thought was strange for and Tito could kill me, but when he married Jenna Jameson, I mean, that's a sporting vagina. I don't know why he married it, but it didn't last long. But still, he's Tito's
I have no
Tito's a lot
comment.
out there. Chuck Liddell
I'm,
never should have been licensed to fight him in that last fight, though. But Tito got his revenge, so I mean that's what counts.
yeah, and you know what? Honestly, I Chuck Liddell was also a treat to watch, man. That guy was just unstoppable for so long. His anti-takedown game, or his takedown defense was some of the best to this day. Like, holy shit, like that, you could not take that dude down unless you knocked him out. Like, that was just the way it was. I'm not even sure I'm looking at the right place, but anyway, yeah, I think it was in Florida, maybe it was in California, but and then yeah. So anyway, yeah, yeah, Chuck Liddell, yeah. Sorry, go
Is that
ahead.
popular in Australia? Is Ultimate Fighting really big down there? I know they've been
Oh
there.
yeah, one of the best pound for pound fighters in Volkanovski. He's an Aussie, true blue Aussie man. And he loves Australia. He loves being from Australia. He loves representing Australia. And if you haven't seen him fight, he's a beast. He's an absolute beast. He took that fight with who was it? Forget his name. But anyway, the only fight he's really ever lost, he took like with 2 weeks notice and no camp. And he's like, that's it. He's like, that's how it works sometimes. He says, I'll be back, but he's still champion of his division. He was just going for a higher belt with no camp and 2 weeks notice. He's still going to be around, but yeah, it's big here. Got a lot of MMA gyms in Australia. We also do have, by the way, we do have a firearm stores in Australia, as they are not illegal, contrary to popular belief. I know there's a lot of propaganda. Firearms are illegal in Australia. No, they're not. I live 5 minutes from Miles Gun Shop right down the road. You can look it up, Google it. Anyway, in Frankston, Australia. Anyway,
Yeah, I love guns.
but yeah, MMA gyms all over the place. So it's huge here, and UFC is huge here as well.
Is wrestling big there too?
For a lot of people, it is. I think probably it's the minority of a lot of people, but it is. Like when they do have wrestling, what is the current big wrestling group now? Is it WWE?
AEW. I'm wearing my Blackpool Combat Club shirt,
Okay.
and of course, still WWE, the two main ones.
Yeah, whenever they have come to Australia, like they do sell out. Like they do sell out, and that's there's no question about it. So yeah, they do well here.
Would you say that if William James Jones, who exploded onto the martial arts scene with Corey Feldman in the movie A Most Dangerous Game, would you say that type of kung fu that they did, he would wipe the floor with anybody in the UFC?
No. No.
Good answer.
No, I would say that a trained Shaolin monk who has spent his life as a young boy, and then in his prime in his mid-30s to in between there, somewhere around there, going in, would do pretty well. But just going and learning kung fu by itself, you're not going to do well in the UFC against guys who are learning everything. Those monks, you can actually Google that too, or YouTube some Shaolin monks fighting some MMA fighters. Some of them it's pretty impressive. Those guys they're pretty amazing to watch. Not all of them win. Sometimes they do.
What would you say is the worst beating? Would it be the beating Tito laid on Ken Shamrock, or the beating Al Bundy laid on you when you were dating Kelly when she had the flu?
Well, it was Christina Applegate and me getting to basically her feeding me pizza. So I would say the beating that I got from Al Bundy was worth it.
Yeah.
Um, but also I think Ken Shamrock also a pioneer in the MMA world. I think when Ken Shamrock and Tito had that fight, I think Ken Shamrock was a little bit more past his prime than Tito was. I think Ken Shamrock had that fight happen 10 years earlier, it would have been a different, maybe not a different outcome, but a different fight and possibly a different outcome.
And it was easier to
Ken
start
Shamrock,
by steroid tests back then too. So.
yeah, right. And Ken Shamrock he was a different beast back. He was a beast back then as well. So like, I mean, if you watching Ken Shamrock fight back in the day was a treat as well. That dude was mad.
But
And he went up best.
for those people that don't know, Ed O'Neill, who played Al Bundy, is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So he can
Right.
beat up Aquaman and John Wick. Because they're both
Right. And
belts, I believe.
and he's not a tiny dude.
No, he's a big guy.
Yeah, Ed O'Neill's a big boy. So yeah. Yeah.
Now I have to ask, I've covered all this. I don't want to take up too much of your time because we're in a big time difference here, and this is like one of your few days off. You are doing reunion tours now.
We
did
did
a reunion tour, I should say.
We did a reunion in New York City last October. I say last October like it was like years ago. I'm sorry,
Yeah, a few
like a
months
month
back.
or two ago.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic, man. We basically got the band together and the group and all of us, with the exception of Heidi, who could not make it, sadly. But every one of us, every other cast member made it. And fans flew out from the UK, fans flew out from Europe, fans flew out from all over the United States, fans from New York, fans, converged upon this Stitch Bar and Blues in New York City, and we had a concert, and it was fantastic. And we actually, during the day before that, we did a meet and greet. We did signed autographs and had merch and all kinds. It was awesome. Actually, it was. I think People magazine did some interviews and before and after, and I think one of the things I said was my heart is full. Like it was just a really cathartic experience. It was fantastic. So yes, we did that. We are open to doing more, but we'll see. There's nothing concrete, but we are open to doing more. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Have you guys ever thought about maybe doing one where you don't all have to be together, like a live stream, and people can buy merch and everything like that? I mean, that's got to be something in the cards.
I think we've got something coming up in January. Stay tuned to our socials. My socials would be, let me look them up real quick because I don't really pay attention. Instagram.com/J Anthony Franke, one word, and that's Franke with an E, not an IE, so Franke. And then also my Facebook, it's let's see.
What's your name?
There's my personal one is my name, and then
Ah.
there's also the fan page, which is J Anthony Franke, also one word, official fan page at so facebook.com J Anthony Franke official fan page. And then I'm on TikTok too, but I don't really run my socials except for my personal one. But
What about Twitter?
yeah, I don't do that. I've never done Twitter.
Twitter.
Never. I had an account for a while. Not a big fan of how things are going there right now. Again, probably something we may or may not disagree with.
No, I disagree with it 100%. I'm not paying no jackass money just so I can have a check mark by my name.
There we go. And I'm not a fan of how it's being run. And I just started to think about actually using it because I had my handle for the longest time. And then that dude took it over and I'm watching the way it go. And I just actually canceled that account, watching the way things are going. So
I just use it to share. When I post a story on my website, I just click the little button. I don't really interact with anyone on there. I try to interact with them on the Facebook page. That's about it.
Right. And I think the few times I did try to do anything on it, like I got responses from people that couldn't, like, I don't think they were real.
Yeah, it's
It was
happened to me
like
too.
it was like a crap load of bots, and this was after. I think this was after. Yeah, it was after it was taken over, and well, I was told the bot problem was getting better because he was doing something about it, and it was actually it seemed like I didn't have that problem beforehand. Anyway, neither here nor there. I don't use it, so
Are you on YouTube?
I'm all over YouTube. But I think I have a channel, but again, that's I think somebody else runs that. I don't think I put anything on it regularly. Maybe
Me neither.
I may start. Yeah, I may start. We'll see. We've been getting a lot more fan engagement lately. So, being as grateful as I am that we still have fans and that people still care and care about what we did back in the past, has made me a little more proactive in doing these things. And yeah, so yeah, we'll see.
I
We'll do
was a
more
big
stuff.
fan of your show. I mean, I've told you that. I'm just, I say it out loud. Season one, season two, like when you came in, not saying it just because that's when you came in, but when it became kind of more wacky hijinks, that I was a big fan of it. I liked it. I showed it to my son when he was younger. He liked it. It's a good show. It
Thanks,
was a
man.
very good show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's one of those things that actually was. It wasn't bad. It was good. It was, my wife will put it on every now and then and I'll be, gaming or reading, whatever, or have my guitar in my hand and look up and see something that I do or William does or Michael does or Kelly or Jenny or whatever, or Aaron or Diana or Heidi and laugh, and it'd be like it really isn't. It's a pretty good show. I've seen people say stuff like, oh, I remember that show. Somebody posts something about us, and somebody says, "Oh, I remember that show." That's like if you got uh, Saved by the Bell from Wish.com, and I'm like, tell me you haven't seen the show without telling me you haven't seen the show. Okay, all right. I've had people compare us to the Power Rangers. Oh, that's just like the Power Rangers, and it's like, what the are you talking about? Or a copy of the Power Rangers. I mean, first of all, we were out before the Power Rangers. Second of all, we're nothing like what the heck? Like, so yeah, we get a lot of that too. But anyway,
I don't
it was a good
recall
show.
many
I appreciate it.
fights I don't recall any episodes where you guys fought monsters or aliens.
No monsters. Jake had a few brawls, but that was in to protect people, whatever. But and they never actually showed it. Oh no, Jake. No. Yeah, they never actually showed it. Any of that stuff. Yeah, it was really. We see some weird stuff, but yeah, it was a good show. I appreciate that you appreciated it. I appreciate the people that do appreciate it. If you haven't seen it and you talk shit about it, kiss my ass and watch it, or don't kiss my ass and watch it and then make it and then say something. So and if you don't like it, that's fine. I'm okay with that. It's but yeah, don't act like you know it if you don't. So.
I would publicly say I'd like to see
Sorry, I'm
more
a
of
little
Diana in
ornery today, but
episodes. You know,
what's that?
I'd like to see more of Diana in things. Because just because I would, but
I think we were at the reunion. By the way, Diana hasn't changed. She looks exactly the same.
yeah, I know.
And at the reunion, she had actually said, and I kind of agree with her. She had said, "I wish we had gone on longer, so we could have actually had more episodes with Sly and Diana, and seen like what those two could have gotten up to." And honestly, I agree. I think that should have happened. I think we could have gone on a few more years, as you had
Oh,
mentioned earlier.
easily.
But
Saved by the Bell went on low at like 38 years. I mean, come on.
yep,
90210, like I really gave a fuck that they had jobs and everything. I mean, that went on forever. A lot of those shows went on forever.
yep.
Years went on 5 seasons, and Shout Factory still won't release season 5.
I mean, hey, Shout Factory, thank you for doing it. Reprint, re-release, make it available worldwide. And
Sell the
then
rights to Mill
actually
Creek. They'll put it
and
out.
yeah, and advertise it and actually put some marketing behind it. And it would, yeah, it was just, I don't know, like it just wasn't, I don't know. Anyway,
Do you have anything upcoming?
talk to your friends there.
Yeah, I do bother them about it. I even told Mill Creek they should pick it up because I know they put out a best of episode of you guys. So the rights have got to have lapsed somewhere in there where people just don't pay
There's
attention.
somewhere in there. There's a best of you. There's a best of that has like 5 episodes on it, And the funny thing is, they don't. I'm on the cover. I'm on the back. It's actually a picture. That picture of me on the back of it. And they don't even mention my name. They call me Glenn, which is the guy that Tiffany cheated on me with at the prom,
Yeah.
or not cheated on me. The guy that she didn't actually cheat. I'm sorry. The guy that kissed her and then
Kissed
Jake
her.
caught her kissing or whatever. And they call me on that. They call me Glenn and don't even mention my real name. And on the yeah, it's a really weird release, and I kind of think it's I'm happy I have a couple of copies of it because I think it's funny and it's kind of a collector's item because of that reason.
You should sign one of them, Glenn, and sell it. Really
You know,
even
I
got
might.
the mistakes. See, I've got some ideas.
J. Anthony Glenn Franke.
There you go.
Glenn Franke. Yeah, I will. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So for anyone listening, do you have anything you'd like to plug?
Um, no, I've got nothing at the moment. If we just keep an eye on the socials that I mentioned earlier, we may have stuff coming up. I think there's something coming up in January. Keep an eye out. And then other than that, yeah, I join my socials and sometimes I post myself being playing very terribly and singing very terribly and then sometimes I post my thoughts and or my lack of thought as well. So yeah, plug in me, I guess. So here we go. Thanks for having me, man.
No, thanks for
And
doing this. I
it's been
appreciate
too
it.
long. Sorry it took so long. Yeah.
It took like 10 years.
Yeah, sorry
I'm
about that.
watching. I give a plug to the Mike Rand show. Mike Rand, very cool guy, friend of mine. I'm like, he's like, I've got J. Anthony Frank. It's like, motherfucker. I've been asking him for years. And he goes, this guy's what the fuck is it? I think he's actually gone through and interviewed most of the cast, actually. So very
Yeah,
cool.
and I think when you originally asked me, and Mike is a very nice guy. When you originally asked me, I think I was having one of those like dark periods where like I just like kind of, like I said, I suffer from depression and anxiety, and I think I was
I do
having one of those
too.
dark periods where I'm just fuck everything and fuck blah blah blah, and yeah. So I apologize, and then it never just, and then I didn't come out of it going, oh yeah, let me get back to Corey. It was I just kind of came out of it and was like, all right, and then moved on. But yeah, but yeah, it's been good to know you this long. So
Yeah, I've known each other for quite a while there. We both love Tito. Yep.
this is a Big Cheryl.
My dog
Oh
has
yeah.
kept quiet this whole time, which is a rarity.
Yeah, this is Big Cheryl. She's and that's little Lucy right there.
what
Yes. So
what is
now
Lucy?
Lucy is a mix of Cavalier King Charles with Beagle, and Shirley is Cavalier King Charles. I'm sorry, Cavalier King Charles with Beagle and Jack Russell, and Shirley is Big Cheryl is Cavalier King Charles and Jack Russell without the Beagle.
Does it bay?
What's on?
Does she bay? That
No, but she's very vocal. So she doesn't really do the beagle or she doesn't bay, but she does like when she plays, she's very like she talks and she talks at us. She also is very bossy, as you just saw. She was like, "Hey sister, what are you doing in there? Get your ass, Daddy's doing an interview. Get your ass out of here." That's why she came in to bark. So
mine has
she's always tattling on Cheryl. But anyway, go ahead.
generally you hear my dog Hank, who I post pictures of. He is a tree walker, howling throughout at least some point of the year, but he was very good and he kept his mouth shut. My lab is, I think, asleep on my bed right now.
Yeah, same. I'm surprised that actually they've been quiet this whole time because normally, our we live on a court and we've got a family across from us that have children and they're busy and moving around a lot, and our dogs just hate when people do stuff outside our house. And so I'm actually very surprised that they've been this quiet. So, but anyway,
I want to thank you again for taking the time to join us, and I hope people will write in to. I'll put the link in here to maybe get season 5, maybe get streaming, maybe get something. But I hope
Great.
you do. I hope you do more reunion shows. That would be very cool. And once again, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Me too, and I thank you. And yeah, sorry again, sorry it took so long. I appreciate it. This was fun, and thank you everybody. And again, earlier when I was like kiss my ass, and I don't really mean that. I was just like, just watch, just check it out. If you still have critiques, we're fine with that. But like if you haven't seen it, there's no reason to critique. I won't critique you if you haven't, if I don't know you. So anyway.
Thank you guys very much.